All right, all praise, glory, and honor certainly due to the Most High, the God of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and peace to you in the name of His Son, Jesus. I count it truly blessed each and every single time that I come before you to preach the Word of God, and never do I count it as a light thing to do so. All right, brothers and sisters, I want to get right into today's topic. And it is a question that was asked about marriage. And this question goes as follows. I'm new to the truth. The Most High has recently opened my eyes, and I'm studying Torah. I was reading Deuteronomy 22:12 and Deuteronomy 24, verses 1 through 4, and Song of Solomon 6, verse 8. I had a few questions. I decided that the best way to ask my questions was to formulate a scenario and ask questions based on scenario. Okay, so just keep that in mind as I read this scenario. All right, this is a question based on a question somebody had. So in this particular question, Michael is a single man that has never been married with the state government. Michael was a sinner, however, he made a commitment to follow the laws of the Most High. Michael meets a young woman named Jasmine. Jasmine is single, has no children, and has never been married with the state government. However, during her life, she lived in the homes of two of her former boyfriends who both had sexual intercourse with her. Jasmine lost her virginity um, to one of her boyfriends and has 18 other male sexual partners who were not her boyfriends. Excuse me. Jasmine did not know the Most High or keep his laws. However, after talking to Michael, she is willing to learn more about the Most High and follow his laws. Michael and Jasmine grew closer together with no sexual intercourse. They also grew in the Most High and kept his laws. They then began to discuss having a quote-unquote biblical marriage. Okay, so so a few questions. Number one, since Jasmine was not a virgin and had sexual relationships with those men in the past, could Michael marry her without breaking the Most High's marriage laws? Okay, so um, yeah, he can. Whether or not he should is a different question, but he can because she has not been married. Let's go to the next question. Number two, would she need a bill of divorce? Again, you never said that she was married. Um, and the reason I want to point this out is because sometimes people say sex equates to marriage. No, sex is the consummation of marriage, and marriage is based upon is a covenant between a man and a woman, consummated by sexual act. The sexual act in and of itself is not marriage. Okay, and I want to point this out. I want to read something in Exodus 22 because a lot of times some people who want to make this claim, and I'm not saying the person that asked the question is making this claim, but you will hear a similar thing if you're have sex with somebody, you're married to them, and that's what. And so even the cohabitation, living with somebody and having sex with them doesn't mean y'all necessarily mean y'all married. Because there's no particular agreement or covenant there. And I'm not saying that agreement or covenant has to come from the state, because it does not. But if somebody's, let's say for example, you just quote unquote fornicate with somebody and they sleeping on your couch, that don't mean y'all married. This is Exodus 22 and verse 16. It says, and if a man entice a maid that is not betrothed, meaning she's not engaged, or what we would call in the Western world engaged to somebody. Okay, similar. Think of Mary and Joseph prior to them coming together in that way. She was found with child. They were betrothed. Okay, they just had not sealed the deal, so to speak, with the consummation of the sexual intercourse. So it said. It says, and if a man entice a maid that is not betrothed and lie with her, he shall surely endow her to be his wife. So just because he lay with this woman who was not married and she was not betrothed doesn't mean that that's his wife, but he had to take the steps to make her become his wife. And and he had to endow her to be his wife. And this is pointed out, it's the dowry of virgins, because that's what you will pay a dowry for, a virgin. But nevertheless, it said, if her father utterly refused to give her unto him, he shall pay money according to the dowry of virgins. So again, So I point that out because this whole idea that sex equates marriage is not accurate. Okay. So would she need a bill of divorce? She hadn't been married. Again, you being with somebody, if there's no covenant of marriage, right? If there's no covenant of marriage, that don't mean you married. Okay. And then it said, could she still be a wife with her? The next question, could she still be a wife with her sexual history? The question is that something you want to do? That would be a better question. And then the question, well, would her status be concubine if she were to marry? Okay, so let me say this. And sometimes we trying to look at things how they were in Torah, and then we looking at it. Sometimes we're westernized and not realizing because what the Bible is saying, that was not supposed to be any of that. Okay, so what you're trying to do now is coming into a truth, trying to repair a situation. Okay, so and the question is, as I dealt with the lesson not that long ago, dealing with marriage still, you can disqualify yourself from certain things by just what you do. Okay, you can make yourself disqualified by the things that you do. So if now if you wanted to make that step, that's a different situation, whether or not that's a wise thing to do. But certainly, if you were looking at it from this perspective, in the sense of where they had concubines, that a woman that has had that history, she's not marriage material. That's a problem that we're seeing today. And I know that may be, people may say, that's tough to hear, but that's the reality. You really could put yourself in a situation where just even if you're just looking at it just logically, how you even that whole notion, you done slept with all these men. Now you want one man you've been living with men, you've been slept with all these men, now you want one man to not deal with you until after y'all get married. I'm not saying y'all should be dealing with each other. I'm just saying, like, you kind of put yourself in a position not to even be desirable for marriage is what I'm talking about. That's just like if you have a whole lot of, let's say you got 5 illegitimate children. I ain't saying you were married and had children. I'm not saying you were, and even got a divorce. I'm not saying you were married and then your husband died. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about you got 5 illegitimate children and 6 baby daddies. And you, just from a logical perspective, you've kind of put yourself in a position of disqualification, just logically. Now I'm not saying, now whether somebody want to deal with you, that's if they want to deal with that. And see, we have to get to the point where certain things are just simply unacceptable. Why? Because we had the laws now. So this next generation shouldn't be coming up with the same folly, with the same foolishness. I'm talking about people in the world. Shouldn't I be coming up with the same foolishness? So you can put yourself, in a position to where you are undesirable for marriage, and then it's certainly things like this to where you would be looked upon as a secondary. Let me read what a concubine is. Because, like you said, even the dowry that was paid for a virgin. Like, people, women in particular, don't realize how they devalue themselves with just sleeping with any and everybody, and then thinking that you're supposed to be in a particular position. Why? So some man could come and take care of your illegitimate kids that he really has no authority over? That makes no sense. This is under concubine. This is on the Vince Victoria Bible Dictionary. It says in the Bible, not a paramour, but a woman lawfully united. This is under concubine. A woman lawfully united in marriage to a man in a relation inferior to that of a regular wife. See, if we want to go back to what they were doing, the regular wife, it ain't like she had a long body count or any body count prior to getting married. That's not what it was supposed to be. That's like basically something like this is like saying, should you marry a prostitute? That's basically what you're saying. I know it sounds rough. I know it sounds harsh. You say, a prostitute? You selling? Yeah, you basically doing the same thing. One getting paid. One getting paid for the other not. Yeah, you are playing the whore. So you basically saying, is it okay to marry a whore? Now you think about that before you ask the question like this. Think about it in that regard. Is it okay to marry a whore? And I'm talking straight logic. And if we start, and I know that's rough, but if we start looking at it like that, then perhaps, and bring some shame to the situation that should be there, perhaps we won't continue down this road of whoredom that we on right now as a people. So it said, no moral stigma was attached to being a concubine. It was a natural part of a polygamous social system. So now, again, this is another thing. So like this, nothing wrong with being a concubine. It would mean you in a secondary position. That's you will be in a lower status. You wouldn't be a first. You wouldn't be a primary wife. Now let's look at this further. It said concubinage is assumed and provided for in the law of Moses, which tried to prevent its excesses and abuses. And the references here, Exodus 21 and Deuteronomy 21. Concubines were commonly taken from among Hebrew or foreign slave girls or a Gentile captive taken to war, although free Hebrew women might also be concubines. They enjoyed no other right but lawful cohabitation. They had no authority in the family or in household affairs. Their husbands could send them away with a small present, and their children could, by means of small presents, be excluded from the heritage. And they give it the example, Genesis 25:6. The children were regarded as legitimate, although the children of the first wife were preferred in the distribution of the inheritance. In patriarchal times, at least, the immediate cause of concubinage was the barrenness of the lawful wife, who herself suggested that her husband had children by her maidservant, Genesis 16:30. Prominent Old Testament figures who had concubines were Nahor, Abraham, Jacob, Eliphaz, Gideon, Saul, David, Solomon, Caleb, Manasseh, Rehoboam, Abiah, and Belshazzar. So they had these concubines, right, with secondary wives. And you see in one instance, it was like if the main wife was barren, but also like, again, this is just a woman of a lower state. So oftentimes you would see those women who were the handmaids of the main wife, or they were in servitude. They were in a lower social status for whatever reason. Then they could be a concubine. So basically, so some of these questions that are being asked with this scenario about her being a virgin, and whether or not you wouldn't be breaking a law per se in marrying her. She hadn't been married. The issues happened prior, right? So then it says, would she need a bill of divorcement? She hasn't been married. Okay. Then could she still be a wife with her sexual history? That's a question based on, is that something you want to deal with? And would her status be concubine if she were to marry? And again, it depends on how you approach that. If you approach that with the marriage license of the Western world, there is no concubine. Okay. If you looked at it where you didn't have paperwork and y'all dealt with those particular labels, it just depends on what. But again, what we have to stop doing is this. Women need to stop this. You really putting yourself in a situation of disqualification. You know, this whole idea of sexual freedom and what's acceptable now is totally contrary to what the Bible is saying. And even if you're not looking at this, a man that has some just on basic, just again, logic. Why would you want a woman that's dealing with all these men to marry her? You make yourself not marriage material. So what you want to do is not put yourself in that situation as a woman. And with that, brothers and sisters, I want to remind you that we're at the Household of Faith, meet every Sabbath at 5925 West 25th Avenue in Gary, Indiana at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. We live stream right here on the Israel Teach YouTube channel, as well as at www.israelteach.org. If you have been edified through the ministry and would like to leave a donation, you can do so on our website. Again, www.israelteach.org. That's ISRAELTEACH.org. 100% of the proceeds go to the work of the ministry. We also have Bible study every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on Zoom. And the personal meeting ID number is 845-710-8849. Again, the personal meeting ID number is 845-710-8849. And that's for our Wednesday night Bible study at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. This is on Zoom. We also have a Bible study every Friday night at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, also on Zoom. And that personal meeting ID number is 602-961-1318. Again, that number is 602-961-1318. That's at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time every Friday. We also have books that are available that are written on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and other places where books are sold. Into Egypt Begin with Ships, The Pagan Origins of Christian Holidays, Hair Like War, Feet Like Burned Brass, Killing Black Innocents, For Then Shall Be Great Tribulation, and In Defense of Biblical Polygyny. All these books are available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other places where books are sold. All right, and to my brothers, Nicodemus, Micaiah, Lawson, Sister Kay Bell, and everybody else that's listening, peace to you, and it's always my prayer that you will.